Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph Malajnowski with the Red Team Village, and with me is Chloé Miss
Almost
Miss
there. Almost there. Very
Messdaghi.
close. Miss
Messdaghi.
Daggy. Thank
Did
you,
I say it right?
Joseph. Yes, you said it
Okay.
right. I know it's
She
hard.
is she is a chief strategist for Point Three Security. She's an international keynote speaker who's spoken at such events like Texas Cyber Summit and others. She's a co-founder and board member of Women in Security. She's a founding board member of We Are Hackers, and she's a co-founder and board member of Hacking Is Not a Crime. She's also a SC Magazine honoree, Business Insider, one of the 50 power players of cybersecurity, Cybersecurity Advocate of the Year in WSC, and Cybersecurity Women of the Year in Cybersecurity Excellence Awards. It's my honor and privilege to announce Chloé.
Wow. Thanks, Joseph. You did some thorough research about me. Like, people, that was not a bio that I have. That's something he actually researched. Thank you, Joseph. I am so honored and
Anytime.
touched. So I will see you at Grey Hat this year and anywhere else you tell me to go. All right, let's get started on this. First of all, thanks you guys for tuning in to HackerCon. This conference means so much to the community, and I know especially for Red Team Village, also for Hacking Is Not a Crime, and every single speaker that you have heard today are all individuals that behind scenes are working endlessly to try to change the circumstances that the hacker community is facing every single moment. This talk has changed a little bit because we basically have talked a lot about vulnerability disclosure. We've talked a lot about legislation, and also how to talk with the press. So we're going to talk about a different element here today. But I want to first, this whole talk is about Hacking Is Not a Crime and what our mission is and what we do. So you guys can have a little bit of an idea what we do. All right. So first of all, Hacking Is Not a Crime is an organization that's completely dedicated to every single hacker out there who's ever been scared to disclose. And I know that's pretty much all of us. To all the hackers who've been prosecuted for trying to do something good or doing their job, and to all the people who are in the fight to bring rights for hackers. And of course, you. I mean, you're here. I don't really need to tell you guys who I am because you just heard, but feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My DMs are always open. So even if you have questions after this event or you want to get involved, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Like, literally, my DMs are always open. But let's first talk about what is Hacking Is Not a Crime. And I think the best way to tell you guys is actually the true story of how it came about. And it's going to be from a different perspective, of course, than my co-founder, because we came together in a different time of trying to form something that you see today. So first things first is, what is Hacking Is Not a Crime? Well, how it came about on forming Hacking Is Not a Crime, it was that there was already something existing. But the thing was that last year at RSA conference, I gave a talk about hacker rights. And in it, I broke it down by public perception. And the key players of it are organizations, there are the media. And media, by the way, means marketing and press, and also legislation. And in order for us to ever get rights as hackers, we had to work with those players, but we overall need to change public perception of who we are because they don't know who we are. We kind of stay in our own community and we don't go outside our community. So no one really knows what we look like, what we talk like. And that's a huge problem for us because public perception keeps us away from having anything changed. So I created a petition that was based around the talk that I gave at RSA conference, which is that link right there. Feel free to sign it if you like. But after that, I also wanted to take an action because I'm not just that person who's like, okay, I'll just write about something and then move on. I'm actually someone who's like, once I talk about it, I'm committed to it. Like, I want to take action. And I really was looking around to see who would be a good pal, I guess, in some ways, a good pal to help me bring this vision to life. Because the reality is that after starting other organizations by myself, I have to admit it's a lot of work. Having someone who does it with you is so much easier because you both can task each other different things and you're able to move a lot faster in many ways. And so what happened was that I came across something on Twitter. hacking is not a crime. I'm like, what is this? Is this an organization already existing? Who is this person? And so I reached out because I saw that they had these stickers and I kept seeing them pop up at conferences. I think the first time I saw it was at DEF CON. And I was like, who are these people? And so I basically sent a message trying to like connect and see if there's a possibility of some sort of synergy that we could work together. Now the thing was that I didn't know who I was actually talking to. It turned out it was Brian. If you see in the highlighted section, it's like, by the way, this is Brian. I'm like, wait, Brian runs this? I had no idea. What does he do? And I remember that immediately we scheduled a call and we got a call and I started sharing everything. He was starting to share things and it just flowed so well in ways where like we helped each other out. There's areas that like he's really good at and there's areas that I'm not good at, but it's always kind of like a really good balance. And it's really cool to work with Brian too, because if you're hearing that, that is my puppy. The reality is that Brian, if you see in this photo with the hacking is not a crime mugshot, he was someone who created these stickers to basically put all over, have people have like a little guerrilla marketing style and post it everywhere, because the reality is that we need to draw attention to this. And the stickers do help because it leaves us with a question like, what do you mean hacking's not a crime? I thought hacking is a crime. And it starts a conversation. And that's what those stickers do. They're a conversation starter. Anyway, so Brian and I, we came together and we're like, let's take further action than just the sticker front. Let's change the dynamics. And the best way how to do that is to create a community movement, a grassrooted movement. And this is when we had to, kind of ask some people to join us. And to be honest, the whole thing about Hack is Not a Crime was that the whole overall goal was to bring a one place or one-stop shop where hackers in the community and people that are trying to become hackers would be able to go to and find out all the organizations, the resources out there, and people that are advocating for things to change. Because we didn't want to create something that other organizations do. Instead, we want to help voice them and push out their agendas. Because to be honest, they're on missions and we need to support them. And the best way to support organizations is to collaborate with other organizations. So overall, hacking is not a crime is the same idea, whether you take stickers for guerrilla marketing, to have a conversation starter, but it's also to push out advocacy and to challenge people's public perception of who we are. And that's what this talk is going to be about, is hacking is not a crime and why we're so focused on changing public perception. But I do want to also acknowledge one enormous group of people, and that's our advocates. When we came together, we realized that there's no way we're going to be able to have a grassroots efforts unless we also, kind of tag our friends with it. And that's when things magically started happening. We got our advocates involved because they also want to see a change. They've been at certain points of giving talks or at their work or when they're talking to the press that they've always wanted things to change. Because our legislation is like really out of date. It's back in the 80s, as now you guys know. And that's not going to be okay anymore. So Hacking is Not a Crime is a grassroots movement that's like working with the community and outside the community to bring rights for hackers and change public's perception of what is a hacker. And how we do that is we work directly with the press to update them about the terminology and the imagery. And we also do it to change overall the public perception of how everyday people see us, because I kid you not, anytime that we say that we're a hacker to someone who's not in the hacker community or space, their jaw drops a little bit, or they might take a step back. They might try to get out of a conversation because they're officially awkward. But the reality is they don't know who we are. And so the only way that we're going to change that is by working with organizations, by working with people to push for a change, and also to partner with the entire community to go outside our comfort zone so then we can change things from the bottom up. And it's really important for also Hacking is Not a Crime to exist because we need a place like this. We need a place where every single hacker knows it's your go-to place to find out the resources that are out there for you. Because a lot of the times when we first get into it, we don't know about the resources that exist. We don't know about the legislation that exists. We don't really know too much. We just work on our skill set. And that's a huge problem because we might end up having ramifications down the road. So having a one-stop shop of where everything is located, the organizations that help, the resources out there for you to know of, that's super important for us to all be on the same page as a community as a whole. So let's go further about why hacking is not a crime is needed. Because the public still doesn't know the difference between a hacker versus attacker. And it's one of those infuriating things because it's not just the public, it's even within our own industry. They don't know the difference. And the whole thing is it's all about intent. If it's a bad intent, then you know that's an attacker. If it's a good intent, then you know it's a hacker. And the reality is that we still see in the press today, they don't know the difference. The public doesn't know the difference. Your legislators have absolutely no idea that there's a difference at all. And that's a huge problem, as we have heard already from other talks. And it's this concept of not knowing how we can work with the public and changing the perceptions of the hacker community. It's a huge problem because we keep seeing situations like we saw with Coalfire earlier today on the panel with Gary and Justin facing basically 7 years of prison for doing their job that they were getting paid to do, a legal job. And it shouldn't be that way. We should never have to fear when we're trying to protect and serve. And if they want us to protect and serve, we need to have protection too, because we have families, because we're doing this because we care about the world we live in. And why not protect us too? Because the current landscape still to this day, because of public perception, is that 94% of Forbes Global 2000 still don't have a vulnerability disclosure policy. And hackers still to this day do not report vulnerabilities. And there's a statistic from HackerOne that 1 out of 4 hackers will not report a vulnerability. And if they do, it's usually ignored or dismissed because usually you try to find the contact information. And that becomes like a huge problem because then you're like, I don't know who to contact. And that sets you up for a real problem because then you send a message to like a DM on social media. And what ends up happening when you send a message on social media, marketing gets that. Marketing sometimes doesn't have conversations with tech, with your engineers or your security team. And so they might ignore it or they'll send it to their PR and legal team. And the next thing you know is that they're handing you a lawsuit. And that's a problem. The laws right now do not protect you. They protect companies. They protect your local areas, your counties, your state. The laws do not protect you when you're trying to protect and serve. And this is a problem because we're still seeing our colleagues, our friends, our family members getting prosecuted because of this. And this should not be occurring anymore. And to be honest, it's also the reason why we still have bad actors out there. If we're not going to be having any protection provided for us, and we have the skill sets and we need to make a living, of course, that might be a situation where people will end up going into the dark side of things. But the current landscape, what you need to know is how did we get here in the first place? So bear with me. There's some things that you're going to learn about how your brain conceives things and how human behavior works. First things first is to able to influence public, like society. It's the media, organizations, and legislations. They work together to change our environment, to shape our environment. And if we're going to have any rights at all, you have to work with all three because they work together at the end of the day. So if we want to change how the public perceives us, we have to work with the media. We have to work with organizations to try to get them to have vulnerability disclosure policies. But we also need organizations to take a stand with the hacker community. We need them to also push for legislation as well. Because our legislators, they don't really know too much about us at all. They don't know about our security community. They don't know about InfoSec majority of the time. And that's a problem, because that's the reason why we still have legislation that is ridiculously out of date. And it affects us so much because they don't know us. So we have to change the public perception. And that is what Hacking is Not a Crime does. Because the reality is that socially constructed beliefs exist. And what these beliefs do, it makes us basically believe in how the world works and functions. For example, if I open a book, or if I read something in the news, or I watch a movie, and I keep seeing hackers being perceived as attackers, I'm going to believe that hackers are criminals, that what they're doing is a criminal activity. I'm going to believe that, because that is how the world works and functions, because I grew up seeing that imagery, those terminology, since I was young. And it's these socially constructed beliefs that holds back our society, because it makes us believe in stereotypes and it feeds prejudice. And the only way that you can conquer that is to acknowledge that socially constructed beliefs can be false. And we don't actually all have answers at all. And that's something that we need to be aware of. Because the reality is that socially constructed beliefs really do stem from the media and your community, but a lot from media. That's press, that's print, that is seen in movies, that's like seen in TV, it's seen in advertisement, even in marketing gimmicks that we see in our own space. The reality is socially constructed beliefs are the reason why we're held back. And you also do see this. For example, when you search like criminal hackers versus ethical hackers, you get the exact same imagery. This dark hooded figure in a basement, you might see like a mask on them, a ski mask. And it's great for some of us to be like, oh, it's okay, that's just how things are. But the reality is that this imagery is holding you and I back from getting rights, because it's already letting us know that hackers are criminals. Just by these images alone, public sees it, and then immediately it reinforces those socially constructed beliefs. Same with terminology, using the term hacker when they should be using the term attacker. And this is an ongoing problem. So the results of the media, I want you also to know, is that it does impact legislation organizations, because socially constructed beliefs are a human belief. It's a human behavior of how we figure out how to survive the world and how the world works around us. And the media really does feed that a lot. And the media does impact our legislation and organizations as well. So overall takeaway from all the talks that you've heard about legislation is that laws prevent good hacking in the same way they prevent attackers. And we really do need good hacking in many ways. Because the reality is the current situation that we're in, it is feeding a problem that has never been fixed. Aaron Swartz's case is one of those reminders that even since then, legislation hasn't been changed yet. That the public still perceives us as these criminals. In reality, that's not who we are. And what happened to Aaron Swartz is one of those cases where it really takes you back. It makes you take a step back and realize that something's got to change. This cannot keep occurring. And that's one of the reasons why you have all these organizations that have spoken earlier. You have EFF, you have I'm the Cavalry, you have Disclose.io. These all exist because they want to prevent situations from occurring in our community that are horrible. And the only way that we're going to be able to fix that is working with the media. Because like I said, socially constructed beliefs are the reason why we are stuck in this place in the first place. You can say it's legislation, you can say it's organizations, but it's public perception. And the best way how to challenge public perception is working with the media, because it feeds directly to your socially constructed beliefs. And that is what Hacking is Not a Crime is trying to do so hard right now. Because what we do as our advocates do, and what you can do too, is that we call out when they have the terms wrong. We call out when they use the imagery that is incorrect, that don't represent who we are. Because if we don't correct them, and by the way, be kind, respectful, and have empathy, because the reality is most of the time they don't know that they are doing something wrong. Because most of the time, journalists don't know there's a difference between an attacker and a hacker, because the public doesn't know, right? So a great journalist wants to know the right terms. So correcting them in a kind way, letting them know that that's a wrong term to use, that's how we start changing the way that people perceive us. When we start having the news report saying attackers versus hackers, that helps us. When they report us saving the day as a hacker instead of security researcher, that helps us. So we do call it out on Twitter. And always, if you are going to do this, please be kind. Once again, they do not know better most of the time. And tag Hack Not Crime, and we can try to help out the situation. But we also call it out on marketing. Whenever we see marketing kind of like using the hacker community in a negative light, we correct them on that too, because it's also within our own industry, we still have boosts of like the dark coded figure, and that's not correct anymore. So we need to correct them. We also do at Heck is Not a Crime is that we do give kudos when they get it right on Twitter. And this is something that you can do too as part of the community. And you could do that as being an advocate, because we always could use more advocates. And we do send letters to copy desk. This is one that we sent to New York Times a while ago, trying to tell them that please use the correct verbiage, because it does impact us in the end. We also provide comments to the press. And whenever we do give kudos to agencies that are following news in the right terminology. It's just important that if they don't do so, to also state like, hey, once again, we're your friends, and you just kind of threw us under a bus. So it's good to have these comments. It's important that we stand out and we are strong about what we say, but also have understanding that people sometimes don't know that there's a difference between a hacker and attacker. But what we also do is share your stories, because the only way that we're going to not just challenge the media and how it's really influencing public perception of who we are, it's also challenging stereotypes. And those stereotypes, the best way how to do it is tell it by a personal story. Sharing your personal story is how you get people to rewire the way that they would behave when they run on a stereotype. For example, we have this project that you can be part of. It's called the Hacker Stories Project. Basically, people in the hacker community, they record a video of who they are, why they got into this space, and what are the issues that they're facing. Because the reality is that the public needs to see who we look like. And please do this without a hoodie too. But the reality is, by showing who we are, what we look like, and our story, the next time that they read something in the news, or the next time that they meet a hacker, they're not going to take that step back and get scared. Instead, they're going to be like, oh, you're one of the good guys. And that's what we need to do, is challenge public perception. And the best way is through stories. By telling your personal story and people seeing your face too, it's something that means a lot. That's the only research that's out there on how we could challenge stereotypes at this time. And that's what's needed. I would play this video, but we don't have time for that. But if you want to participate in this, go to Hack Is Not a Crime, and there is a hacker story section in there. It's super easy to do. Just record a video of yourself talking about why you're a hacker, why you enjoy it, and what are the issues that you have faced. And we would love to work with you and share that around. Because the reality is that by challenging the socially constructed beliefs, by storytelling, by reminding the press that hackers and attackers are different, Imagine a world where all the Forbes Global 2000 have vulnerability disclosure policies, that 100% of us do report vulnerabilities because we don't have to be afraid anymore to serve and protect. We have protection. And that the laws encourage good hacking so we can reduce the number of malicious attackers, not malicious hackers there, malicious attackers. And then we don't have any more prosecuting of hackers. Now I write ethical hackers because people need to understand by saying hackers, we do mean ethical. Ethical in front is just something that we probably need to start dropping, you guys. But summary overall is that please do get involved. Visit hackingisnotacrime.org, become an advocate with us. We love working with people and trying to get the message out there. And also, if you want to do is record a video, participate in the Hacker Stories Project, because I guarantee you, stories like that help us in so many ways for people to see what we look like, so they don't have the imagery of the masked hooded figure in the basement and it's dark anymore. They have an actual face, which is in the light, and talking about why they do what they do and what it means to them to be a hacker and what are the issues that they face because of it. Also, work with the media and keep them informed is something that we do all the time, and feel free to join us, or if you want to tag us or DM us saying, hey, we came across this post that really it impacts our community in a negative light, can you please react? We'll do that too. It's okay if you don't want to speak out. We're here to help you out, so just DM us with that. And remember that, once again, the public doesn't know the difference between an attacker and a hacker, and it's up to us and to work with organizations, media, and also with legislators to change the way that people perceive us. So please have empathy and please be kind to one another. And last but not least, I want you to know that right now, you might have doubt that things will change because we haven't seen too much change, I guess, since the 80s. But the reality is that right now is a time to get involved. By sitting on the sidelines, that's not doing anything for anyone. We have to come together, and the change really does start with you and me, and you have that ability to change someone's mind of who we are by having those conversations, by participating, by sharing. We need to work together, because that's the only way that we're going to push for rights, is by coming together as a community, as we already are. So thank you guys so much for existing. Thank you for seeing my talk. And if you have any questions, I'm going to be in Discord. And yeah, and if you feel uncomfortable writing in Discord, it's okay. My DMs are always open. So I'm always here for you guys. And thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Chloe. And as Chloe mentioned, it's extremely easy to get in touch with her. You got the contact information, and the website is super simple, hackingisnotacrime.org. And with that, we're going to go in a quick break, and we're going to get set for the next speaker. Thank you again.